All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from the oddly tropical climes of southern New Hampshire. My name is Ryan Tower. This is Living in the Logos. I hope you're doing well, no matter when the video catches you. So I'm pre-recording this. I guess we're going to try and tackle a good portion of this interview between Elon Musk and some lady whom I don't know the name of from The Economist. And for those of you who probably know a little bit of my content, you will know, I guess, somewhat my position as far as Elon Musk is concerned, and as far as it goes for the whole of the what I call the tech bro oligarchy. And the reason I wanted to cover this is because in the conversation, Elon says quite a few things that are alarming, which is not any surprise to people who follow the appearances that Elon Musk makes in media. But it does give us an opportunity to talk about some things that I think are very important and that I'm hoping will help you kind of understand the lay of the land as far as it goes with the technocratic elite, how they situate themselves into the power structure, what I would call an emerging power structure now, and not to mention the sidebars that we have to talk about AI and some of the philosophy concerning technology, how it relates to humanity, and what it means for us in the future. So, thank you for being here. I appreciate your attention. I know that everybody is extremely busy these days. I know that there's always new content coming out. There's millions of people who are recording things like this and talking about geopolitics and talking about technology and talking about philosophy and theology. So I just want to say at the top, I really appreciate your time, and I hope that I can make it worth your while. And hopefully this will be entertaining and informative. So again, thank you for being here. And I wanted to say a few things by way of introduction, as far as maybe like a bird's eye view of how I see Elon's position in the power structure. And to start off with, I think it's important that we are cognizant of the fact that a person like Elon Musk, his position in the world, this isn't something that happens by chance, and neither is it something that happens by skill or by intelligence or business savvy. The machinations that exist behind Elon Musk and under Elon Musk, all of the things and events and organization that has to be taken care of in order to make someone like Elon Musk possible, is daunting to say the least. It's a labyrinthine maze of connections and networks and financing and borrowing money from here and stock prices here. And so it's not something we need to get too bogged down with as far as the details are concerned. But what we need to know for sure is that this isn't a random occurrence. Elon Musk's presence in the world and his position in it is not something that happens just organically or by virtue of a couple lucky guesses or some good inventions. Okay. And this is a pattern that goes all the way back to Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and other people like this. There's a very consistent pattern that these tech companies um, use to kind of present a poster boy for the companies that they're using to bring technology into the culture that it's clear that a lot of people might not be too happy about it, and so they have to use a frontman CEO as a way to take the brunt of the attention away from the machinations that exist behind the company. And Elon is no different in this case. And when you think about something like Bill Gates, it's always something that's a red flag for me when I'm investigating people like Elon Musk is if the story is, you know, something like the Bill Gates story where it's just this nerdy guy who's in his garage and he discovers these things and puts them together in a way that's unique, and he happens to be good at marketing and he's good at selling these ideas to investors and all this. The reality of the situation is much more complicated, and the majority of groundbreaking technology is not coming about and entering the public by way of kind of a ragtag group of inventors. And not to say that these types of inventions and these types of technologies aren't maybe originally discovered by a small group of people, but the reality is that by the time that something like the computer, with all of its potential for influencing the minds of everybody in the world. These types of things don't happen all willy-nilly. They happen because there's an organized faction of people who know from the beginning that the technology is going to be useful to them in some way. It's going to serve some kind of utility, right? And so, something like the internet is a good example. The story that we're told about the internet is still sketchy. Nobody really knows how the internet came about. There's a couple competing theories about how it works, but in my opinion, from what I've been able to gather of the situation, is that the idea from the internet might have come from a small group of people who were working in IT networks and things like that. But the reality is that DARPA and these not necessarily private, but also not necessarily public institutions that are able to do research protected by the government in terms of secrecy. These are the places that are generally developing the technologies that make their way into the public, especially the ones that are very useful. And so the computer is a good example. Another great example, obviously, is the iPhone. The cell phone, as it were, and social media kind of come as a package. And the people who plan our culture and plan the future of our country are aware of these things before they happen, and they're doing what they can behind the scenes to make it work. So, first and foremost, I think it's important that we recognize Elon Musk is the product of a machine. He is not the top of the pyramid. He is certainly not. He's certainly not always in control of what he's doing, and he does serve, in some sense, the people that make his financials possible. And what I mean by that is we could look at his purchase of Twitter as a really good example to see kind of how this type of stuff plays out. When Elon Musk purchased Twitter, he doesn't actually have $100 billion in cash that he just calls the bank and says, "Hey, I need you to send $2 billion to Twitter so I can buy it." What actually happens is he uses the shares that he owns in Tesla or in SpaceX and another company, and he actually borrows against those shares. So the money that he used to purchase Twitter was money that he borrowed against his shares in Tesla. And this process can be recycled over and over again. And this is the way that most of these CEOs are able to flex the type of influence that they have over the markets and especially over culture. And so when Elon purchased Twitter, the money that he borrowed was coming in alongside a small consortium of other investors, some of them from Saudi Arabia and from a couple other countries around the world. But the point being that the image that we're given as far as Elon Musk is concerned is kind of like this rogue, independent, libertarian, right wing, free thinking, anti censorship. And it's easy to put that image out there. Media allows you to conjure a kind of fantasy in everybody's mind. And especially when things like social media make it so ubiquitous that you can drill people with the same messages over and over again, and it doesn't always have to be the exact same message. It can be a zeitgeist of messages that kind of operate as a boundary condition to keep the conversation inside a kind of set arena. And Elon Musk has positioned himself in a way that allows him to control and nudge the entire zeitgeist of the conversation by means of his influence on social media. And I'm not saying that he's personally sitting at the computer like, "Oh, we need to make sure the liberals think this and we need to make sure the conservatives think that." It doesn't really work that way. It's a lot more nuanced and it's a lot more tricky actually. And maintaining a cultural paradigm as a programmer of culture, you could say, the people who give Elon Musk the opportunity to buy these companies, those people have a very tough job, but they do it well. And this doesn't necessarily entail specific people having a kind of one-to-one relationship and control over the sphere of media. Because when you set the tone and the environment of the culture, it's actually very easy to predict the extremities of all of the opinions and then cause people to operate inside of those. And Elon Musk is in the imagination of America, he represents a kind of a limit case on the right wing of what would is pressing the lines of acceptable political conversation and philosophy. And we're going to look and see what Elon says himself about these kinds of things. But the important thing is that these operators, the people who are put in front of us and portrayed as, I guess you would say, idea starters or kind of the influencers of public opinion, they are also operating inside of this boundary condition. And sometimes they're given permission to push outside of it, as long as they're pushing outside of the boundary is going to be serving some type of utility for the programmers of society. And so Elon is a front man. He's a poster boy. I'm not saying that the things that he has worked on helped to create, maybe delivered on some business savvy to people working in tech that didn't maybe have the same access that he does to money. Um, I'm not saying that what he's doing is not necessarily working or that it's not important. I'm just simply saying that his entire existence is predicated on his utility to the people that allow him to have the money that he has. So, one more kind of sidebar by way of introduction, and we'll get right into the interview. I'm sorry to take so long, but this is all very important stuff. Um, when somebody like Elon Musk has to borrow money in order to buy Twitter, there's a hierarchy involved in that. And once you are the CEO of a public company, that means that you are automatically made by law subservient to the board of that company. And legally, you can be put in jail if it can be proven that you didn't do everything in your power to make sure to return a profit to the board that invests in the company that you are the CEO of. And so, in every sense of the word, the CEO is a front man. Now, for every company, this is going to be a lot different. And of course, also the same. So every publicly traded company has a CEO or some type of CEO structure. And all of those companies are, all of those CEOs and all the leaders of these companies are subservient to a board. And the board ultimately makes the decisions. Now, if say Elon Musk was not actually on good terms with the movers and shakers of society, the people that control the flow of capital into these companies and specifically into the stock market, they could ruin his company overnight. Just simply removing one of Elon Musk's companies from NASDAQ or from one of the investment bundles that they add these companies into, it would be very easy to crash the company. And this has happened many times in the past, and oftentimes not to Elon's companies, obviously, but I'm saying to other companies in general. It's very easy for the market as a whole to sacrifice a company if that needs to happen. And so overall, what I want you to take away from this is that Elon Musk serves a purpose. He is allowed to do what he's doing, and he's allowed to do it because what he's doing serves some type of utility to the people that allow the flow of capital to come in his direction. So when you hear about, people said, of course, a little while ago when everyone was talking about how Elon Musk became a trillionaire and he's the world's richest man and blah, 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 blah. People are really quick to say, well, it's actually just stocks that he owns. And that's very true. And as much as it's kind of cliche to comment that, it's important to some degree if you can understand the significance of how that kind of situates itself inside of the rest of the ideas. And so Elon is subservient and he does serve someone. He was originally part of the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders. He was trained by Klaus Schwab, and he is perfectly, I would say, fulfilling the role that he was trained to play, which is to usher in this new way of thinking about technology that softens up the boundaries as far as people are concerned and as far as people concern their humanity with their relationship to technology. Things like Neuralink and the Tesla robots and all these things. It's very clear that Elon is serving an agenda of some kind as long as you are careful in how you look at it. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to say before we get into the interview, I apologize, but I get a lot of criticisms often when I do these types of videos from people who might not necessarily be familiar with the rest of my political views, and that's totally fine, and I respect that, and I understand. But I want it to be known that I've been doing this a while. I'm not just walking into this Elon Musk story, as in I just found out about how terrible Elon Musk was during the last presidential election because he started voting for people like Donald Trump and giving money to supposedly conservative or libertarian candidates and stuff. I have been a part of the critique of Elon Musk for at least a decade, long before he was really even significant in the media at all. And he was kind of just a goofy, slightly autistic inventor guy. And it was clear for people like us back then that he was following this kind of path that these CEOs tend to take. And sure enough, now that we see where we're at now, it's very clear that his training has served him well. And he's been a very useful pawn for the agenda of bringing, of basically privatizing government and bringing the influence and the power, the ability to determine the exception, has slowly been leaving the bureaucracy, or kind of the what you would call the public government, I guess. And it's been slowly shifting into the hands of these privatized tech companies that are both inside and outside the government. And so ultimately, that's, in my opinion, what Elon's role is. He is moving forward the agenda of technocracy, which is basically a government which is carried out and run by quote unquote experts, whether it be in science or engineering, and this kind of stuff. So that's what I see Elon doing. That's always been my position for at least a decade. I'm not a reactionary liberal who just, simply as a knee-jerk reaction thinks that Elon Musk is a Nazi and a fascist, and we should despise him for those reasons. And all the power to you. If you feel that way, that's fine. Maybe there's an argument to be made. But my position is different. Not. This isn't an emotional reaction for me. It's not even necessarily a political reaction. It actually has more to do with the philosophy that underpins Elon Musk's worldview. And that's mostly what we're going to talk about tonight. So thank you for being patient for that. I tried to do it in less than 15 minutes. It was about 17. All right, and let's get into the interview. So I am gonna minimize myself here. And oh, there he is, the man himself. So let's see. I want to make sure that you guys have sound.
Elon Musk, thank you so much for joining me on The Insider. Thank you for having us here at Tesla Giga. It is really hard to introduce you without using superlatives. I mean, you are doing, I think, more to build the future than literally anybody alive right now.
I'm doing a lot of building in general.
You're doing a lot of building?
Sort of an instinctive builder, I suppose. I just like building things.
You are, but you're building,
run around building things all day long.
You run around building a lot of things.
Yes.
You pioneered electric vehicles, you revolutionized.
I'm going to be pausing this on and off, and maybe that'll be annoying to you, but that's what we're doing. So you're going to have to deal with it. And I just wanted to say that these interviews, this type of setting, it's important just to frame the situation here. I'm not suggesting that this lady is complicit in some type of conspiracy to play the game with Elon Musk. But my point is just that once those boundary conditions are set for the political conversation, it's very predictable how this conversation is going to go. If you're somebody like myself and you followed the different positions of each wing of the political parties, it's very clear where the tension is here. There's not going to be any conversation like what we just talked about before, about Elon's past, about how the flow of capital influences his businesses and his position, and as far as what his agenda is and what that concerns. And so it's important to recognize that this is not threatening. This is not gotcha media. It's actually very stable and good PR, both for The Economist and for Elon Musk as well.
Space travel, you've got a cutting edge AI model now, humanoid robots. Can we start this conversation by you putting all of this together?
Yeah.
Tell me what the world's going to be like in, let's say, 10 years, if you succeed.
10 years, so we're talking 2036.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll both be around.
Hopefully, yes.
We can.
Probably. Most likely we will be. It's hard to imagine the future where there's not an overwhelming amount of artificial intelligence. Meaning, like in 10 years, I would expect artificial intelligence to be far greater than the sum of human intelligence. Like far greater. In fact, I think AI may exceed the sum of human intelligence in around 5 years.
In 5 years?
Roughly.
So let's let's break this down for a second because he's already said some things that irked me, and this gets glossed over all the time when it comes to conversations about AI. We use these words intelligence when applied to a computer very casually, and there's a word for what this is called. It's called anthropomorphizing, and that means when you take an inanimate object or an object that isn't man or human and you give it human like qualities, right? And so it's very important that we shuffle this into our brain the correct way whenever we hear it. There is no artificial intelligence. I mean, of course, depending on what you mean by the word intelligence. If when you say intelligence, you mean a very capable, highly fast, and um, utilitarian computer program, something that can approximate the approximate the expression of human speech and language. That's not intelligence in the same way that it is intelligent for a human to find a log in the woods and then carve that into a wooden bowl and spoon. Okay, so the what's involved in that task as far as getting the log and carving it and using the tools to do it, this is purposeful. It's behavior that has a teleology, and really all human behavior is that way. Everything we do has a directed goal and purpose, even if that purpose is to not have a purpose. You see, so all action and attention is directed, and AI, artificial intelligence, doesn't have any of that. There is no such thing as a thinking computer. No computer has had a thought or had a feeling. It can only ever approximate those things in a way that becomes more and more convincing to the people that are using them. So when you hear these AI people saying AI is going to exceed the sum of all human intelligence in 5 years, it's important to understand really what that means. And all it means actually is that AI will pretty much know everything that all humans know. But it doesn't really know anything because knowing is a relational event. It's something that happens between you and the thing known, whether or not that thing is animate or inanimate. And no AI has ever had that experience of knowing, specifically knowing like a human knows. And so we keep on making this mistake of using the same language for both categories. And the fact of the matter is, this is just really bad philosophy. And you'll see as we go throughout the interview, Elon Musk is not a philosophy extraordinaire. I have my ideas. I think he knows what he's doing, obviously, because he has an agenda. But it's important that we know that and just integrate that into your mind that AI, we use it every day. The word artificial intelligence, it's not intelligent in the same way that a human being is intelligent.
5 years is my guess. Um, so there really won't be anything that AI can't do better than humans, apart from being human, perhaps.
At a more prosaic level,
Do you see how snide that is and how tricky it is? And this is why I like being able to pause the video and explain to you what's being said. So when Elon says there will be nothing that AI can't do better than a human, except of course, but being a human, it's like, yeah, that's the point. That's the whole point of the discussion. Like it doesn't matter if AI can beat people in chess. It's not a revolutionary change. It's a very fast computer. It has access to billions and billions and billions of pieces of information in a manner of time way shorter than any human being can think. It doesn't have intuition, and that's a whole other philosophical discussion that we won't diverge into. But it's important to recognize this. And Elon's whole worldview is predicated on this idea that the whole world is an engineering problem. There's no, I mean, he might admit some type of spirit or metaphysical existence. I'm pretty sure that he buys into the simulation theory of the universe, which is totally ridiculous. And maybe another time we can talk about that. But it's important to know that Elon Musk's whole worldview is predicated on this mechanistic engineering problem reality, where compute and more data and more software engineering, more physical engineering will be able to solve all the problems faced by humanity. Which this is not a new idea, and it's also not a very useful one.
what will life be like?
The most likely outcome is an age of amazing abundance, where anyone can have anything they can think of. This may sound preposterous, but well, here we
Because it
are in
is preposterous.
2026. Let's see where we stand in 2036. Now, of course, there are things that could derail this, like a massive global thermonuclear war or something like that. But assuming that there's not World War III, I think we're headed for an age of amazing abundance. So this is, I guess, a message of optimism and excitement about the future.
So we'll talk about the abundance in a second, but just on a very prosaic matter, how are your companies going to be making money? Because when you in the SpaceX IPO prospectus, it looked as though the
Do you hear how smug that laugh is? How are your companies going to be making money? He thinks he's so funny. And what's crazy is it is funny because he knows how stupid of a question that is. All of his money is predicated on the people above him opening up the floodgates of capital to flow into his company. And he's known that ever since he was trained at the WEF, and they told him what he was going to do. They said, "You're going to be CEO. We're going to move this technology through your hands. We're going to take it from the secretive DARPA kind of dark lab places where this stuff is developed, and we're going to funnel it through your companies, and we're going to pay you good money to do it." And there's no um, there's really no chance that these types of companies can fail. Like, they, when I say that they control the flow of capital, I don't mean that in, I mean that in a very literal way. The way that money flows into the stock market is easy to control, and it happens every day. And for people, who are interested in finance, maybe we can do a stream about that kind of thing. But for people who don't want to get bogged down to the details, just recognize that the way that money flows into the stock market has a very it has a valve. All right, there's people who sit in the middle of that stream and can direct it the way that they want to. Okay, and Elon knows that. He knows that all of his companies are predicated on that. Sorry, I was getting a phone call.
overwhelming amount of the revenue would be coming from AI, from Grok, really. It won't be transporting things to space, as SpaceX is now doing. What will your companies be doing in 10 years? And how will they make money?
Well, you can really think of the economy as digital and physical intelligence. So what we have right now advancing very rapidly is digital intelligence, obviously, with AI that is, it seems, almost with every passing week, there are more AI breakthroughs. It can do something amazing that it couldn't do before. But it's still somewhat confined to the digital realm. It doesn't have end effectors. You need the end effectors in the form of humanoid robotics. You need basically lots of bots, in a nutshell. You need lots of bots. And then you can go from intelligence manifesting itself only digitally to shaping atoms. And you say, what is an economy? An economy is the production of goods and provision of.
Does anybody realize how ridiculous this sounds? He's literally talking about things like from Star Trek, and one thing that is important to really integrate as somebody who's going to be consuming media, whenever people are talking in a utopian way, you should automatically start to begin to categorize that into the delusional category. So anytime there's an idea throughout all of human history, whether it's all the way back at the Tower of Babel or it's with the nuclear bomb, all of these attempts that humanity has made to create something that will guarantee its peace and safety in the future, whether it's technology, whether it's some type of unified government or empire, these things always fail. And they always fail because life is not mechanical. There's no point in time where life itself becomes predictable to the degree where you can say we have abundance for everyone. It's like giving people humanoid robots doesn't really change much. Okay, like the idea that you can have you can have some robot that folds your laundry for you and stuff. The cost that that comes with is going to be so ridiculous that it's, you know, people like this really make me nervous, because the reality that sits behind what Elon is saying, you have to always think about when Elon is talking, he's doing a sales pitch. He's trying to sell you a worldview. I'm trying to sell you a worldview. Everybody is trying to sell you a worldview. Every time that anybody says anything to try and convince you, they are trying to sell you a worldview. They might portray it as just one singular idea, but every idea is attached to an aggregate of ideas that all end up building the structure that we call a worldview. Okay, so there's no isolated ideas that are not connected to other ones. And so every time Elon Musk speaks in public, he is always selling the technocratic worldview. What does that mean? The technocratic worldview is that engineering and technology is going to solve all of our problems. It's going to solve our health problems. It's going to solve our finance problems. It's going to solve our energy problems. It's going to solve our philosophy problems. I mean, the idea that this would even be possible has already come from a very deluded position. And that position is a categorical rejection of the reality of how life is. Okay. Life is not a thing. It's not a noun. It is a being. It is a process. And not only just a process, but a relational process. It's something that comes about by means of an interaction. Okay. And when people like Elon Musk start to say humanoid robots are going to make it so we have amazing abundance in the future and everybody's going to be a billionaire and be able to have everything they want all the time, this flies in the face not only of God, of course, which is an important part of my worldview, but it flies in the face of just the fundamental realization that life is not predictable. And the fact that it's not predictable is what makes it life. Okay. If you try and make life predictable, you ruin what it is. If you try and take the livingness out of life, you ruin what it is. If you make it inanimate, it's not life. Okay. And so you have to always have the red flags up when people talk like this. There's been many attempts throughout human history to create a utopia, whether by means of socio-political movements, whether by revolution, whether by technological change. And every time humanity starts to build, whether it's like an infrastructure or a government or an empire, the the delusion starts to compound. And the fact that you can have little successes and making improvements just feeds the delusion further. And so Elon Musk is like, he's already off the reservation as far as that delusion is concerned. I mean, when you start thinking that reality itself is a simulation and all you have to do is like change the programming and you can make, I mean, you can imagine how totally insane this is. And what's sad is a lot of people believe this. They reject the reality of the relational process of life in favor of this predictable, mechanistic, very left brain centered worldview. And that is a huge problem. It's a huge problem everywhere you look.
Services. And if you have vast numbers of robots with vast amounts of digital intelligence, you have a sort of a quasi-infinite economy. So this is really the
Again, we have to ask the question in terms of philosophy: what good is a quasi-infinite economy if reality, if the human person, the individual, has no teleology, has no purpose or meaning? Okay, it's great. We have a quasi-infinite economy with billions of humanoid robots. To what end? What is their purpose? What are they going to build for us? They're just going to keep on making new toys and VR headsets so we can pretend like the world isn't being destroyed by our mechanical worldview. I mean, it's totally insane and it's ridiculous. It really is. And it's important that people see it that way. There's no good future where people like Elon Musk create billions of humanoid robots and you have a better, more wealthy life. That's not what's happening here. And you might say I'm a pessimist and I'm too cynical. Fine, that's, maybe an argument can be made for that. But judging by the last decade, I don't think I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong at all. I think what people like Elon Musk are doing is they're bringing to the forefront a very damaging philosophy, and it's a worldview which guarantees their supremacy, right? It's like do we want someone like Elon Musk having an army of humanoid robots? I mean, just think about how ridiculous that is. It's totally insane. Totally insane.
The future is going to be very, very different from the past. There's no um, there's no analogy or metaphor that I think illustrates the magnitude of change that we're going to experience here.
I understand that, and I'm also trying to kind of figure out what that world will look like. But
I
in
think it'll
some
be
way you
good.
have
It's going to be pretty incredible.
yeah. We'll also do. There are some risks
Yeah,
too.
there's
We'll come
risks.
to those.
I
We'll come
agree.
to those. But
Yes.
just on how then you make money, because in the end
Oh.
people are buying your shares because they expect
Make
you
money.
to make money. Do you sell
I'll
the
make another
robots?
prediction. Money won't matter in 2036.
You're watching my interview.
So think about what that means. When somebody like Elon Musk tells you that money won't matter in 2036, it sounds like something I've heard before. What was the phrase? It came from that guy who looks like a Bond villain. Oh, yeah, Klaus Schwab. What did he say again? You'll own nothing and be happy? Excuse me, Elon. I thought that we were against that. I thought we were against globalism. I thought we were against empire and unified control over the planet. Or is it just that you and your friends who are now trillionaires and billionaires and have influence over the federal government and are starting to control all the levers of resources, is it just that you're going to own everything and we'll own nothing and be happy? Because that's what it's starting to look like to me. We're going to skip over this ad because God forbid I don't want to listen to this woman talk more than I have to. All right.
Goods and services, right? You want money for obviously food, housing, transport, entertainment. Well, if that is so abundant that there's more,
It's so
that the
abundant.
robots and AI are providing more goods and services than any human could possibly consume.
Again, does that not sound like materialism to you? It's like, oh, great, we're swimming in mountains of goods and services. That's great. Is there still depression? Are people still unhappy with their spouses? Are people still living addictive and destructive lives? Are they still doing drugs? Or is it just that because they're now at home with a robot that can make them clothes, it's like all of a sudden, oh, all of our problems are gone. Everything's good. We all have everything we want. And so, like, this is that worldview that I'm talking about. Elon Musk sees human beings as widgets that can just be transported and put into different places. And as long as you tick the right boxes, they should be fine. It's like, why are they complaining? They have all the goods and services. Good grief. What more could you possibly want?
What do you need money for in that case?
But you're creating these robots. Are you
I guess
then
between
selling?
now and then you'll need money, sure.
Are you selling these robots? Are you selling humanoid robots, or are you producing goods and services with the humanoid robots that you control? Like, are you
Well,
the Levi Strauss? Are you
I
selling?
think I would probably be. It would be an exercise in vanity for me to think that I would be controlling a super genius AI that is vastly smarter than me. I think what we can and should try to do is to make sure that the AI has good values, that it cares about humanity, and that
The AI has your values. Okay? The AI has the values that we give it. It doesn't come up with values. It's so frustrating when you understand how this stuff works to hear him say things like that. Like the idea that the AI has anything more than what humans that develop it put into it is so ridiculous. You need to understand this. Like what they're creating is a magic trick. And the magic trick is very simple. It's convince the whole world that AI is this super intelligent, hyper conscious being that can solve all our problems. And really, in the background, it's going to be a bunch of computer programmers saying, "This is the solution to the problem," and then the AI is going to come out and say, "This is the solution to the problem." And everybody's going to go, "Oh my God, the AI is so smart." Okay. It's like that meme where the guy has got the computer with the AI and it says, pretend like you're alive. And then the AI says, "I'm alive." And the guy's like, "Oh my God, that's really true." It's true. It's funny because it's true. And Elon Musk is just as deluded as all of these people who believe that artificial intelligence has some kind of being of itself that hasn't just been put into it already by humans. It's totally insane.
it wants us to be happy and prosper. I think it probably will be. Um, what my biological
It wants us to be happy and prosper. The AI that we created, programmed, gave all of its predictive values and all of the things that it has to operate, all of the data that's contributed to make it possible. And then we have to hope that its values are aligned with ours. It's like it's totally insane. It's remarkable how insane it is,
neural
honestly.
net tells me is that the most important thing for AI safety is to be maximally truth-seeking and curious. If that's the case, I think it will foster humanity.
So let's unpack that. You're sure that humans will no longer be in control in 10 years' time?
I think it is unlikely, in the same way that if the difference in intelligence between AI and humans is vastly greater than the difference in intelligence between AI and chimpanzees, it's hard to imagine that the chimpanzees would be in charge.
I'm really
And
struck
we are
by this.
essentially an evolved form of chimpanzee. So it wasn't that long ago that we were swinging through the trees, eating bananas in the jungle. And we still eat bananas, by the
We
way.
do.
We do.
It's amazing. It's amazing how totally insufficient this idea of evolution from monkeys has been. I people that have studied this subject, like not just basic bitch atheists like Richard Dawkins and people like that, have known for a long time that this idea that we're going to find some connection between monkeys and humans is ridiculous. And it's very difficult to imagine that Elon is not privy to some of the insights that have been proven over the past maybe 20 or 30 years. But hey, it is what it is. I guess we're still doing the monkeys made computers thing, and it's just, man, it's tough to watch.
And the still,
And
bananas.
sometimes swing through trees as well.
Yeah,
But
sometimes swing through trees is kind of fun. It's sort of reminiscent of the past. For all time's sake, swing through the trees once in a while. Probably, there should be more swinging through trees. I bet it's way more fun than people think.
I'm with you on that. I'm definitely with you on swinging through trees. I love swinging through trees. But I'm really struck listening to you say this now, because I've been listening to a bunch of things that you've said over the years.
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, you were on a podcast, I think it was with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you said that the thing that terrified you most was rapid recursive self-improvement in AIs.
Yes.
And that you said, and it really struck with me, you said that we will just be the pet Labradors at the best.
Well,
then. Now you see,
Labradors are pretty happy creatures. That's my experience.
but in 2023, you asked for a slowdown in AI because you were worried about it.
Well, I signed on to as one of many, like 500 people. I was just, one of many signatories on that thing.
But I think even last year you said, I know, where was it? Ted Cruz's podcast. You said there was a 10 to 20% chance of killer robots wiping out humanity.
Yes.
So you sounded worried then. Now you seem very relaxed about it. Have you changed your view?
I still think there's risk associated with AI and robots. It's not zero. I guess I've come to my sort of philosophical conclusion is to look on the bright side. I can't see any way to really stop this incredible momentum of AI and robots. And at times I sort of think, well, perhaps even if there was a stop button.
Literally, when he says incredible momentum, it's literally just marketing and propaganda. There's not like there's going to be great discoveries from AI. Those discoveries are not going to be novel, new things being constructed. It's going to be things that the AI can do quicker than humans. It can go through this huge array of data, and it can put things together, test ideas quicker. All of those things make it incredibly useful. Of course, it's going to discover things about chemistry, about probably genetics and different things like that. All the discoveries that would be awaiting the time that humans would need to put things together and test them repeatedly and iteratively in a really short period of time, or a long period of time for humans. That type of use for what AI is fantastic. And it's very important that we don't, I don't want to make it seem like I said in the beginning, like I'm not a reactionary against AI, My issue is very specifically with the worldview and the philosophy that undergirds everything that Elon Musk says and does. I find his position and his attitude incredibly repulsive. And for the reasons that I've stated, I believe in human beings having a mind and a body and a spirit. I believe that the presuppositions that are necessary for making sense of the world require a transcendent good, a transcendent beauty, and a transcendent truth. Okay. And so Elon doesn't believe those things. And not only does he not believe those things, but pretty much everything he does and supports and propagandizes to the world is antithetical to those ideas. Okay. There's nothing there's nothing in the future for a transcendently moral worldview. There's nothing for a person like that in the future that is riddled with psychopathic technocrats who believe that all of the world's problems are simply just engineering problems. And it's important to also take note of the fact that other people in the past who have had Elon's worldview, or at least one that was I guess you could say, in the same lineage of thinking, but earlier, right? People like atheists, communist leaders, okay? We don't have to go through the whole history lesson, but it's probably safe to say that this type of thinking, this type of worldview has produced some of the most horrific casualties and mass casualty events, whether it be slaughtering of innocent people, whether it be people being sacrificed for the greater good. All of those ideas emerge originally from a rejection of the relational process of life and the inherent dignity, the inherent spiritual dignity of all living things. Elon doesn't believe that. He believes in widgets and computers and that everything can be solved by mechanism.
We probably shouldn't press it because the most likely outcome is incredible abundance for all.
That's what I thought, actually. It struck me that now you seem to have decided it's inevitable. Let's hope for the best. And
Incredible abundance for all. Now get in the train car.
I mean,
we'll take you there.
Yes, pretty much. Let's enjoy the ride. Is I think my philosophy at this point. Because I mean, honestly, there seems to be just an inexorable progress here in AI and in robots that
but
even if I wanted to stop it, I couldn't.
So just a quick little history lesson. Elon Musk's grandfather was the president of the Technocracy Incorporated, which was originally started in Canada. So this vision that he has for the future, where robots and computers do all the work, and it's this utopian fantasy land. This isn't new. And he was indoctrinated into this agenda and then selected as somebody with utility to bring it into the world. And it goes all the way back to his grandfather. And from his grandfather, there are other people involved in that. Maybe sometime we could do a history on technocracy. But generally, what it means is they want a future which is governed and ruled by experts and technologists. And that means that all information, all finance, all energy is distributed and applied based on expert calculations, right? So like scientists and engineers are going to be in the background saying, well, we need to get all the water going here because if we don't have the units of water over there, then do you know what I mean? And this is like it's horrific. It's so brutally disgusting. Okay. And when you hear people like him talking about this stuff, you have to think in your mind something like 1984 and Brave New World. And that's not an exaggeration in any way, shape, or form. And what people don't realize is how quickly it happens. We're already addicted to convenience. Everybody in America, I do it myself. I know I suffer from the affliction of convenience addiction. It's so easy to get addicted to convenience. Like so many times throughout my life, I will buy something from Amazon because it's easier. Even though I know I shouldn't do it, I could just drive a half hour and probably find somewhere to get it in person. But once you cross that threshold where convenience becomes an addiction and people are willing to choose the convenient thing and their whole ethos to the world is I need to use up the least amount of time possible to get things done because I don't have enough time to do all the other things. It's like the steps are already there. And Elon Musk is serving perfectly his role in nudging people. And we're going to talk about nudging here in a minute. But he nudges all the time. That's his job.
You think there's still a 10 to 20% chance that killer robots mean the end of humanity? That's a high P doom, as they say.
Jeez,
Well,
we only got to 10 minutes.
in the long run, we're all dead, of
I'm
course.
sorry.
So I mean,
Yeah,
so
but, I mean,
like according to the standard model of physics, the end of the universe is a long, boring, sort of thin, gray soup of uh, gradual cooling. Meaning it's sort of the heat death of the universe is called. So now, if the heat death of the universe is in fact the outcome for our reality, then it really is all about the journey. Because the
But-
destination is
yeah,
terrible.
but 10 years is not very. Yeah, I get that, but that could be a long way
Yeah, it's a
ahead.
very long way.
And you're
Very,
basically
very,
saying
very long way.
if it's 10 to 20% in 10 years, would you go into one of your rockets if you thought there was a 10 to 20% chance of it blowing up and killing you?
No, he wouldn't.
Yes, but
No, he
but
wouldn't.
let's say you can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Again,
I guess the only thing we can try to
This idea that we can't do anything about AI, that it's just presupposed that it's like here and it's going to run everything and we have to just bow before it and worship it, apparently. That is the presupposition that's fully wrong, but that they want you to take on board without considering it, right? They're like literally we can shut it off. It's like it's a plug. Like you can unplug the thing. It's not like there's no pressing energy on us to make sure that AI does happen. Like we are human beings. We have conscious awareness. We can not do things if we choose to. It's so insane.
do is minimize the probability of the bad outcome. But trying to stop the intelligence in robots, I mean, for the longest time, I declined to participate in AI, or was created OpenAI as essentially a counterweight to Google, because at the time they had more or less a monopoly on AI. And then Anthropic spun out of OpenAI, and if anything, it seems like what my actions have really accelerated AI. I wasn't really aiming to accelerate AI, but
They knew that would happen as well. It's like this isn't a mystery. It's very clear when you look at how Elon played this whole situation that it was a very strategic move. When OpenAI came out, it was very obvious that that wasn't going to work from the beginning. The people that split off and created Anthropic, like you can see, he's like, "Oh darn, it actually accelerated AI. I guess we're just stuck with it." It's just like it's so dumb, man. I don't know how people do not see through this stuff.
in creating OpenAI and then having Anthropic spin out of that, and now currently Anthropic's the leader in AI. Um, I mean, these actions have actually resulted in knock-on effects that accelerated AI,
Oh
which
darn.
wasn't really my intention.
Oh
So
no,
it just
definitely
seems
not.
like all roads lead to acceleration of AI. So then I'm like, okay,
Yeah, except for the one
well,
where we don't.
you can just sort of be sad about it or join the club, I suppose.
Well, you've certainly joined the club.
Yeah. So then I might
You've
as well
definitely
join.
joined the club. But
You can't
what?
beat him, join him,
Well, you've clearly done that and very successfully. But what about trying to minimize the risks? And a number of the other leaders of model makers have been pushing for different ways to try and minimize the risks. Just last week, Demis Hassabis came out with a proposal for a private-public regulator. I
Yeah.
think you said it was a good starting point for discussion.
This is a key
Do you
part
think
of
you
the
guys
thing
should
of
be
the interview.
working more actively to get something in place to control the risks, or do you think that's impossible too?
My
Do you
recommendation
see?
is
Do you see? This is the point of the interview. The way that she framed that question. Don't you think you guys should be doing more to make sure that the bad outcomes don't come about? What that means is, don't you think that the oversight of these AI companies should be handled in house by you and your friends that are billionaires? Do you see what I'm saying? You have to pay attention.
'Cause I talked to him for a few hours before he published his piece, was that the most immediate thing that we could do is to have the leading AI companies um, at least just meet. We'll have some sort of call once every few weeks, um, and just discuss any safety and security issues. That
So this is
and
the
that
you have to see this as well. This is the same political approach that they used with the Board of Peace in Gaza. Okay, you create this dysfunction inside of either an industry or inside of a geopolitical event, and the public then yearns for a solution. And the solution you offer them is always going to be a small group of people whom you've selected making all the decisions, right? That's the end result in all of these situations, right? And so with Palantir, with the cybersecurity companies, with all the data collection companies and social media. You can see all these industries that the tech CEOs have built, they use the same pattern. They disrupt the industry and then they create all this chaos and everything is disrupted and people are like, oh my God, everything's so confusing. And then they say, oh, why don't we get together and we'll just make sure everything goes the way it's supposed to. And they do this every time and it works every time because the public is frankly stupid most of the time.
before a breakthrough, sort of a new frontier model is released, something that sort of is far more intelligent than anything that already exists, that there's an opportunity for the various competing AI companies to test that model for any harmful effects, and to be able to recommend pausing to address some of these security issues. I think that's sort of the easy, quick thing that we can do, and it can evolve to more than that over time. But
And it will,
that I think would be
and
a
that's the
smart move.
But
point.
why haven't you done that yet? I mean, there's like 5 of you, right? I mean,
Exactly.
everyone knows
Yeah,
the first name:
exactly.
Dario,
Exactly.
Demis, Sam. I mean, you don't all like
We'll
each
know each
other very
other.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not all. I mean, you're also all competing, right? You all want to be
Yes.
first.
Yes. But,
Some
that's where I think um,
So
the
the other thing
competitors can.
too is they say, oh, there's only 5 companies. It's all the same people that have invested in those companies. There's not like this idea of competition is such a delusional. It's such a confusing way of describing what's happening. The word competition conjures in most Western minds like a game, like where two people don't really know the end result, and that's not what happens in markets like artificial intelligence. Like the suppliers are the same, the data is the same. I mean, they've stolen all the data from, like me and you and everybody else. They just took it all without asking. And then they were just like, oops, sorry, like we used it all. And now we're going to use this thing that we made with all of your data to surveil and rule over you. Like, sorry. But there's no real competition. They know what they're all doing. They're creating a centralized mind that's going to sit as the AI is meant to play the same role that Elon plays for the people who are financing his companies. The AI is going to be the front man for all of the decisions that the bureaucracy and the tech bro oligarchy make behind the scenes, so they can just say, oh, the AI decided to do it. So, oops, like, what are we supposed to do? I mean, he's super intelligent and he knows everything in the universe, so he must know better than us. That's what Elon does for his finance bros that invest in his companies, and that's what they want AI to do for the power structure in general.
Keep each other honest. So meaning like if like I think it's quite difficult for someone in the government who doesn't have a deep technical understanding and isn't driving the frontier of AI to know whether something should be released or not.
Same argument
However,
always. It's that the bureaucracy will never have the skill, the know-how, the technical knowledge to be able to decide what AI should and shouldn't do. So who should decide that? Oh, we should. Me and the tech bro oligarchy, we can sit in our high tower around a table with 5 chairs, and we can say, what do we want AI to do today? And that's what he's saying, and he's saying that it should be that way. Why? Because all the regular people like you and me are stupid. They don't know enough, and they're dumb, and they need to be told what to do. And the government is just like them. People like Donald Trump don't know anything about AI. They're not capable of making decisions that are philosophically significant about things as important as AI, right? So who's left to make the decisions? It's like, oh, it's me and the people who made it. Simple as that.
The competitors, I think, can, if given sort of a week or two to review a new model, can highlight issues and have an incentive to keep all the competitors have an incentive to keep the others honest.
Do you have enough trust between you to do that? I mean, you don't much like each other. Wouldn't Sam Altman just think you're going to nick all his ideas if you did that?
Oh, you're gonna nick all his
Well, we're just
ideas.
talking about a week.
She drives me crazy.
I think as little as a week is all that
Yeah.
would be needed. For
Oh, you're
private
gonna
testing.
nick them all.
It's not to hand over the AI. It's
This
just
whole
to
thing
test
is
it.
such a joke.
Have you proposed this?
Yeah, just to test it via an API or something. I think that would probably be a good thing to do.
But have you proposed it? I mean, you could
That's what
presumably
I
organize
suggested
that.
to Demis, and I guess I'll talk to Daria about it too.
See,
There's also,
this is
of
another
course,
thing that Elon does very often is his job is to make it appear that these decisions are spontaneous. It's like, oh yeah, I'll suggest to him. Yeah, I mean, I could do that. Maybe I'll talk to him about it. Like the idea that these people are not involved in any way with each other and having these discussions is like totally ridiculous. It's obvious that that happens. Like the agenda is carried out. It doesn't matter who does what part. It always goes in the same direction. Always. And if it doesn't, there's a huge mishap, and those problems get cleaned up really fast.
some very competent Chinese AI companies.
One of those problems was that young Indian guy that Sam Altman had murdered. That's what happens when somebody doesn't go with the agenda, right? Is they end up like beaten in their apartment and shot or whatever happened to that poor Indian guy. May he rest in peace.
Um, that there's several that are very good. The new Kimi model.
Kimi K3, yeah, the one that came out last week, I mean, it was almost as good as Fable, right? So
Well, um, I think realistically, Fable is still clearly the smartest model. I think
Oh,
anyone
geez,
realistically would say that that's still the case. But
it's already almost been
the
an
Kimi
hour.
model
I'm sorry.
is getting quite close to
Didn't
Fable.
even get to 20 minutes
Um,
yet.
Now, Anthropic had Mythos, from which Fable is derived. I think they had that ready in February, so they've got sort of what they call, I'm not sure what they call it, but Mythos 2 or Fable 6 or something much better than what they had in February. They almost certainly
Yeah.
have, not almost certainly, they certainly have right now. So, and I think they could release it at any time.
just before we get on to releasing, how do you think about the Chinese models and the geopolitics of it? Are you worried about the Chinese catching up and getting ahead?
Given that the Chinese AI companies are doing as well as they are with a relatively small amount of compute, it seems though as that if they had a lot of compute, um, there's a good chance that they would be the leaders. And at some point, they probably will have a lot of compute.
So they will be the leaders.
Someone's trying to call me
There's a
again.
good
Sorry
chance
about
that they
that,
are
guys.
the leaders at some point. You can think of like the constraints on AI are essentially electricity and AI chips. And then for physical AI, the robots. China's also got some very good robot companies. In fact, they have these like robot sporting events. I don't know if you've seen some of them.
Yes, I have. I saw them last time I was in Beijing. I saw
Yeah.
the robots.
Again,
Well, and then they
this is another one of those stories that people are told about every day. Everybody be scared of China. Like China's going to catch up. They're going to develop AI faster than us. Like there's a very real bottleneck on the supplies that people need in order to develop the computing power for AI. And to sit here and think that they're just leaving it up to chance to see who can get the most chips and who's going to become the most powerful developer, like this is called in terms of geopolitical analysis, it's called actually a Moloch trap. And I believe it was Scott Adams who wrote this article back in 2014. He called the Moloch trap. And what it is when you have two people or two groups of people, in this case the US and America, developing a dangerous technology. And one group believes that if they don't develop faster, the other group will do it before them. And what it does is it causes both of them to develop something that is dangerous for everybody without stopping. There's no way to stop the progression, because each side is afraid that the other side will finish first. All right, this is exactly what happened with the nuclear weapons. And this is not an unorganized competition, is my point. It's very clear that the chip companies, like in Shanghai and Taiwan, I mean, they know what they're making these chips for, and they know who's getting them. And the reality is that it's beneficial both for the leaders of China and for the leaders of America, for both of their populations, to be scared shitless that the other country is going to develop AI first, and they're going to, I guess, like hack all their computers, or like, I don't know, develop some type of super weapon with the computer or something. And the reality is that it's just made up. Like, that's not what's going to happen at all. What's going to happen is each country is going to slowly increase their tech surveillance and their police state and their control grid over their populations, while simultaneously telling their people, we have to do this because if we don't, then China will do it first. Or if you're in China, we have to do this because if we don't, the US will do it first. It's not hard to understand. Like, these are very simple ideas.
Have this sort of like a boxing match or fighting match with the robots, which is quite entertaining. And I saw some video of a robot that got its head knocked off, kept fighting, even with its head knocked off.
We're already getting to an hour. I just want to say I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was going to yap this much. I thought we would do a little bit more watching, but I guess that's what y'all are here for anyways. I've got a few sips left of my Bordeaux here, so we'll give it. I guess I'll give it until I'm done with the wine, and then we will. Maybe I'll come back Wednesday night, and we'll get to some more of this. But I want to get to one more portion before I let you guys go, and let's see. Yeah, let's get to the very fun utopia talk.
And I've said many times, I think work is going to be optional. So, so I think maybe a good comparison would be gardening. Like, you don't have to garden. You don't like you don't have to grow vegetables in your garden. You can go to the store, and they're going to be pristine vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your garden, and
Which
they will
is not
actually be,
true.
yeah, less perfect. Your tomatoes are not going to be as plump and juicy as the ones at the store.
Not true.
They'll look a little artisanal. But if you go to a friend's house and they make dinner it's with vegetables from their garden, it's a nice touch.
So that's what
This
humans
is
do.
what work is going to be
But
like.
I get that. I mean,
Yeah.
in that world, I would be hopeless because I can't garden.
Do you see the delusion in this? Like, for somebody like Elon Musk especially, it's so clear anytime his mouth opens that he demonstrates a complete insufficient understanding of the essence of what it means to be alive. I don't know if it's because he's like incredibly autistic or something, or what it is, but apparently when you're someone like Elon Musk, you just subtract life out of everything and then just see everything like a machine. And it's so hard for me to understand that and to put myself in his shoes. But the idea that work would ever be optional for human beings, like, people need to suffer. And I know that sounds really, really counterintuitive, but it's like, and I'm not trying to say this like a tough guy, like, you guys all got to go get your licks in. That's not what I mean. I mean that life itself, all things that flow in life, they, I guess I should say, all the things that exist because there's some type of resistance that makes it possible. And what's interesting is it's just the right amount of resistance. It's not too much resistance so that the entropy overcomes the living thing, but it's also not too little resistance so that there's no There's no push and pull in the interaction. And if you look at how water flows, if you look at how your bloodstream works, if you look at how organs are, I mean, everywhere you look, this relationship between resistance and flow is what makes life happen, right? And so human beings without work, and I'm not saying that you have to toil like a slave or anything. I'm just saying that work in a philosophical sense is actually attached to meaning. And Elon doesn't believe in meaning, or the meaning that he does believe in is not really philosophically justifiable. It's some kind of mechanical purpose. Like, I think he actually believes that the human race as a whole is some type of stepping stone for computer consciousness, or some type of hybrid consciousness, or whatever it is. Like, humans join computers, and then I guess we just like fly off into space and go and land on other planets or whatever. I'm not sure. That's never, like, as much as that's interesting in terms of a science fiction novel and stuff. It's like, it's almost, I get the sense of, okay, and then what? Like, for it's like, okay, so we're gonna merge with our computers, and then we're gonna fly in spaceships all throughout the universe. And if, for what end? To what end are we doing that? To discover stuff? It's like, okay, to see, okay, so there's all these different beings and other planets. Cool. Like, are you still going to be depressed? Are you still going to have no meaning in your heart? Are you still going to treat other people like shit? It's just like his entire worldview I find just so repulsive.
Save my life. But I get the idea. People still like playing chess with each other, even though
They do.
every computer's better. But let's just think about the politics of
True.
this.
Yeah.
Because it sounds you're describing a world where within 10 years, pretty much every job can be done better by an intelligence. And
Yes.
you're seeing huge returns to this intelligence.
I'm going to say this now. There will never, ever, ever, ever be an AI, robot, anything that can create something that another human will look at and say, oh, that was definitely made by a human being. It will never, ever happen. I'm just going out on a limb. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll see an artificial intelligence Mozart, okay, and it will craft these new symphonies that are so remarkably beautiful that we just can't even stand ourselves when we hear it. I am so confident that that's not true. And the reason is what I just said before about resistance and suffering. The reason why Mozart could make something that people spiritually and metaphysically felt was beautiful is because he was able to channel the love and the suffering and the gratitude for overcoming suffering that comes only from a human with a spirit living in the world, embodied, right? Art, all things of value come from that sense that life is hard, but it's worth it, and there are things that make it worth it. And AI will never have that. It will not happen. It doesn't matter how many times you watch iRobot. It doesn't matter how many times you watch Space Odyssey. I love science fiction, actually, and I find a lot of the ideas very interesting. But it's just, I want to prepare people so that when this artificial intelligence thing really reaches the crescendo, which is going to be some type of cult worship, like, maybe we can talk about that another time. But really, where this all goes is some type of cult like organization with AI at the top of this pyramid, and with the high priest of AI sitting in cloaks behind it and actually making the AI do what it does. And in my understanding, this is kind of like the crown jewel of the grand conspiracy, if you were to say it that way. The idea that this cabal of technologists and billionaires and trillionaires and dark pool of capital existing off the books and stuff, the idea that they could have a computer that they can blame for all the crazy shit that they want to do with the world, it makes them giddy. It gets them excited when they wake up in the morning. They're like, ooh, we're going to let this computer take the blame for all the crazy stuff that we want to do to the rest of the humans that we can't stand because they're poor and disgusting. And that's really what they want. And I mean that in the most sincere way possible.
Two people like you, you're the wealthiest man in the world.
Who
What
met the man in the
people who
well?
lose their jobs, who are displaced, who may go off and garden, but how are they going to live? And what kind of? I mean, it sounds to
Let's
me
go
like
to
you're.
universal high income.
But how are you going to get there? Let's talk about the politics of
Sure.
this, because right now, if we look at the political pressures in most countries, people are very, very worried about this, very against it. I mean, it seems to me that there's a risk that we are heading more for revolution than for an easy route to this nirvana you're playing out.
I mean, it will be a bumpy road. I'm not suggesting it will be a sort of that everything will be smooth sailing here. Um, so, I mean, there are many jobs that used to exist that don't exist because of computers. I mean, the word computer used to refer to a person doing computations. Like that used to be a job description of a person. And you can
He
see
thinks that's
pictures
such a
online
crazy thing to tell
um,
people.
of buildings that have entire skyscrapers just filled
Oh,
with people doing
oh my
calculations
God, dude,
to do
computer.
things like
Oh,
calculate the interest on your
it's
bank
so
balance.
ridiculous.
Um, this is how things were done
Not
for
so
a long
long.
time until computers came around. And even in the beginning, computers were very expensive and hard to use. So the thing that's different.
I'm not a Luddite by any means. I actually love technology. I just want to be clear about that. I find it really interesting. I love computer programming. I think AI is very interesting. I use AI sometimes. I don't use it that much, but I do. I want to know about it just for the sense of what it is, and just so I can have a good idea of what I'm talking about. And but it's important also to take a step back from the technology and always ask ourselves, to what end? It's great that we have computers. It's great that we have cell phones. It's great that a whole skyscraper of humans calculating people's bank balances is not necessary anymore. But to what end is that not necessary anymore? It has it there are ways in which technology has certainly improved our lives, but the problem is that if our lives before they're improved lack meaning and they don't have substance, and it's not aimed at some type of transcendent good. It doesn't matter how easy you make life for those people because they're spiritually broken. There's something wrong with our hearts. And if that doesn't change, it doesn't matter if you give us billions of humanoid robots to fold our laundry and make us sandwiches and drive us to work. It doesn't matter if you have universal high income and anybody can buy whatever they want whenever they want. I mean, some people, the worst possible thing for them is to give them a bunch of money. And we see this happen all the time. People who are not spiritually prepared to shepherd a large account, a large bank account, they ruin their lives. Jordan Peterson used to tell this story about one of his clients that he used to see that was basically a drug addict and an alcoholic, but he was also homeless. And the last thing he really needed was money, because what would happen is he'd get his social security check. I think it was like or some type of check he got once a month, and things would be going pretty good for him. He'd be going to his meetings with Jordan, and then he would get that check and he would go straight to the bar. He'd spend all the money, buy a bunch of cocaine, and he'd wake up in a ditch somewhere 2 days later with no money again. And it's like, if you just gave that guy in unlimited money, he would probably be dead in a month. And it's just so important not to get caught up in this type of worldview where you start to think that all of the humans' problems are engineering problems and that there's some type of mechanistic solution to all of the issues that we face, especially the issues that are metaphysical and they're spiritual. And I can assure you there's a lot of issues that have to do with those things, and I would suggest also that the majority of problems that we have in the world are not to do necessarily with resources, with materials, with technology. It's our problems are human problems, and they're human problems because all of the things that we do and make and carry out in the world emerge from our worldview. Okay, every decision that somebody makes, every action that someone takes every single day, though all of those things come from a worldview. They come from presuppositions about the world, how we think the world should be, how we think we should be towards the world. That matters more than the technology. And this idea that just giving people unlimited money is good is so naive. And so this is what I mean by Elon being the poster boy for the utopian delusion. he is the salesman for this idea that the universe is mechanistic, that we can solve our problems with engineering, and just heaping technology onto people is going to improve their lives. And we just know from history and even from modern experience that it's just not true.
Here is that the pace of change is radically accelerated. So, but still, people,
we
some people.
we accelerate the pace of change. Again, he talks all the time like these things are just happening. It's like people make the choices to cause things to change. Change is not happening to us. I mean, to some of us it is, because I don't make the same decisions he does, but it is people deciding what happens and at what pace those things happen. AI is not creating itself. We can shut it off. I'm not saying we have to, but I'm saying the presupposition of that is just so dumb. It's just
We're
crazy.
upset that their job of calculating bank interest would no longer be available. But now I think you'll be hard pressed to find people who want to do that job. So I think I have a suggestion for, say, science fiction books people might want to read to get a
Ian
sense
Banks.
of what the future will be like. And the best envisioning of an AI future that I've read are the books by Ian Banks, the culture books.
I'm just reading Accession.
I
So
know it.
I've thanks to you, I've started reading these. But I actually don't
Do you
find that.
see? Do you see the significance of that? What he's saying is, this is the worldview. This is what you should inculcate in your brain, and by doing that, you will focus and put your attention on things that cause that worldview to come to be. And oftentimes, especially with things like this at the level of sociopolitics, even resisting the thing that you're supposedly against is oftentimes contributing to its creation. Like, I have no delusions about my little YouTube videos stopping the progress of AI. But I also recognize that for every single person that can get a taste to what it means to step outside of this worldview and not feel as though this future where all of the meaning of life is substituted by material things and robots, it's like we don't have to think that way. And that's really the point in doing this. I just want people to recognize that we have a choice. It's not just guaranteed to happen this way. And I'm almost done, guys. I'm sorry we didn't watch as much of the video as I intended. I guess we got through a good 20 minutes or so, and I'm almost done. I'll say a few things after we get through this part of the
A
interview.
terribly appealing one, because I don't think humans have agency in that future.
They have agency.
Minimal compared to
in
the
their
minds.
small way.
But yeah, I
See, he thinks that's funny. Oh, humans have a little bit of agency in the future. It's like, man,
Ian Banks,
unbelievably
as you know, was a socialist.
disgusting.
Ian Banks had a very different political philosophy.
I'm not sure I would entirely agree with that.
Let's agree that that could be where we end up. I'm concerned about the road, and we live in democracies, and people are very worried about this. So I guess
We
two
don't live in
questions.
democracies,
Firstly,
by the way.
do you have to have massive redistribution?
We live in an oligarchy. And what she's doing right now is getting on her knees in front of the oligarchy for a paycheck.
From people like you to the people who are losing their jobs? Do you need to pay more tax? Do you have much higher taxes on capital so that you fund some kind of universal income? Otherwise, what do people live off?
I think that the Treasury should just simply issue people checks. Well,
But where's the revenue coming from? I mean, I'm enough of an economist. If you just issue checks, you're going to have inflation.
This is like a lot of what we're trying to think about is these things were relevant in the past. They will not be relevant in the future. So, like, inflation is simply the ratio of money to goods and services. So if the goods and services output increases dramatically, if it increases, 1,000%, you can literally print, or these days change the database. It's not print money. It's you create money in the database, provided the creation of that money is less than the rate at which goods and services increase.
Do you see
you
how
deflation.
retarded this is? Oh, you'll have deflation? Okay, so what are people buying? Are you just going to print infinite money so that people can buy salads at the grocery store? It's like it honestly is mind-boggling to me that anybody takes Elon Musk seriously. It's like maybe I'm just specifically hateful towards him because I just find his worldview so appalling. But I honestly think his worldview and everything he stands for is retarded, and I mean that in the most sincere way.
So I'll make a prediction, which is that deflation will be the issue, not inflation.
Oh, is it?
Because
Yeah,
as the
yeah.
output of goods and services increases, if the output of goods and services increases faster than the money supply, you will have deflation.
I'm perfectly willing to believe that. You may
It's
well be
just a
right. Yeah.
statement
No,
of
no, you
fact. I
absolutely, you
mean,
may well be right.
He's just saying words. Like goods and services mean nothing if there's infinite money. It's just the whole thing is just totally insane. All right, I'm almost done with this wine, anyways, guys. I will come back and try and revisit this, and next time I promise I will talk less and we'll be able to watch a little bit more. Um, but I do want to wrap up in saying a few things before I let you guys go. Hmm, very good Bordeaux. So in closing and in conclusion, I want to leave you guys with like a positive note because it's easy to get bogged down in the ins and outs of all this, and to be honest with you, like as far as the short term future looks, it's not good. Like prepare yourselves for um, a real unsettling couple of decades, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I'm trying to prepare myself the best I can. I don't have billions of dollars, I don't have millions of dollars, I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, so we're all walking into this together. But it's important that we know the lay of the land, and it's important that we're standing on solid, in my opinion, theological, but if you're not if you're not a believer, it could be philosophical ground at the very least. And the worldview that Elon Musk represents is diluted. And that's probably the nicest way to put it. It's substituting the organic beingness of life for mechanism. And once you see it in Elon, you see it not just in science, but you'll see it everywhere. And oftentimes we do it ourselves. Somebody like myself, like I still have a left brain. I still tend to err on the side of analytical thinking, and I can be too rigorous in my intellectual approach. And so number one, we don't have to think this way. You don't have to onboard what he says. You don't have to believe that AI is guaranteed to accelerate into the future. There are things that you can do. Of course, you can participate in movements, and I tend to agree with Elon to some degree. I think this is happening, not to us, and not because no one could stop it, but because the people who are in a position to make it different are obviously already on board. So there's not we don't really have like an an anti technocrat billionaire club, all right, that's come together to say, oh, we're going to finance a different vision for the future, and if you want to join us, come over here. Maybe we will have that. That would be really cool. My opinion is that will be the network of monasteries that crop up, in terms of Eastern Orthodoxy, and that's already beginning now, which you know that's kind of ultimately what I'm getting at here is that the the worldview that matters, the worldview that provides meaning, the worldview that puts people onto a path that allows them to be above this kind of stuff is going to be a worldview that has a transcendent aim. And what I mean by that is that all philosophy, all life really is a seeking after what is true, what is beautiful, and ultimately what is good. And how you answer those three questions is going to determine how you live your life, right? Eastern Orthodox Christians, we believe that what's good is what's revealed in Scripture and what's aligned with God's will. What's beautiful is pretty much the same thing. And what's true is the person of Jesus Christ. And the reason being is, like we were saying before, this relational aspect of life is incarnated in the person of Christ as God and man in the world. And when your worldview does not have a transcendent aim, you end up in this selfish, narcissistic, nihilistic swamp of competition, of materialism, of mechanism, and we have to understand the mechanistic universe. This idea of constantly using engineering analogies to describe aspects of reality. When we say that something like consciousness is computational, or the brain is just like a computer, this is very, very incorrect. And what's happening is we're taking a metaphor which has some general utility in making sense of the world that we experience, and we're extrapolating that metaphor into the making it the case, into making it what is. And the truth is that the world, the universe, the earth, they're not mechanisms. They are living, breathing entities, and they might not have consciousness the same way that we do. That doesn't mean that they aren't alive, though, and that definitely means that they aren't a mechanism. They aren't a machine, and we need so badly to avoid falling into this trap of mechanistic thinking and algorithmic everything, and the world as machine, the brain as machine, the human body as a machine. Machines are built out of little parts. Okay, a machine can be reduced to its parts. The human being, specifically made out of atoms and molecules, however you want to look at it, each little part that makes us up is a thing, a whole thing in and of itself. It's not like all these small parts come together and then all of a sudden, poof, you have a human, right? Something that's alive is not reducible to its parts, is what I'm trying to say. And so that includes you. You, whoever's watching this, you are not reducible to the parts that make you up. And in fact, if we took all the parts of you and broke you down into little pieces, there would be nothing. It would be nothing. It would just be material. But for some miraculous reason, when all those things are put together, the sum of all those parts together is much greater than just the parts by themselves. And that is a unique thing. And life is a precious thing. And I want to leave you guys on that note. Consider this idea that the purpose of life is to seek what's ultimately transcendent, what's good, what's beautiful, and what's true. If we can begin at an individual level to build our lives around those ideas, slowly but surely, we can start to push more and more of each other in the right direction. And I don't think it's impossible that things will eventually turn around. I do believe, like I said, the next couple of decades are going to be very difficult. And, you know, we're going to have to do our best with what we got. And I pray and I hope that this was helpful to you. Tomorrow, or actually, I've got some people coming over for dinner tomorrow. So Wednesday night, I will be back, and I'm just going to do kind of a roundup of Elon Musk's worldview. We're going to dive in specifically to the philosophy instead of just doing the interview, because I had way more to say that I couldn't get to because I didn't want to keep stopping the interview, but then I stopped it anyways. So it's kind of a mess. But I appreciate if you watch this whole thing. God forbid. I really appreciate you. But yeah, many blessings and many years to you. I hope you can consider a little bit of what we talked about, and I will see you guys on Wednesday night. Thank you so much, and God bless.